Imagine walking outside tonight. You look up at the sky, and suddenly the moon flashes. A massive explosion erupts across its surface. For a few seconds, night turns into day. People all over the world stare upward, unable to understand what they're seeing. Some think war has started, others think it's the end of the world. But the scariest part is, this almost actually happened. This isn't a creepypasta, not a conspiracy theory, not a sci-fi movie plot. The United States government seriously planned to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon, and the project had a name: Project A119, the mid-20th century. The world is drowning in fear. The Cold War is escalating. The United States and the Soviet Union are locked in an invisible war. No battlefields, no trenches, no direct fighting. Only nuclear weapons. Each side wants to prove one thing: that they are stronger. Everything becomes a race. Who can build more missiles? Who can create more powerful bombs? Who can reach space first? And space quickly becomes the new battlefield. October 4th, 1957. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite in human history. At first glance, it's just a metal sphere with antennas. But to America, it feels like a nightmare. The United States never expected the USSR to beat them into space. Newspapers explode with panic. Television networks talk about national crisis. Politicians demand immediate action. Americans begin to fear the worst. Because if the Soviet Union can launch a satellite into orbit, then they can launch nuclear weapons too. And that thought terrifies Washington. Emergency meetings begin behind closed doors. Military officials search for a way to shock the world. Something so massive, so powerful, that nobody would ever question American dominance again. And that's when one of the craziest ideas in human history is born: a nuclear explosion on the moon. The project receives an official name: a study of lunar research flights. A calm, harmless title, as if it were just another scientific experiment. But hidden behind that name was something far darker. The plan was simple: launch a nuclear warhead to the moon and detonate it on the lunar surface. Not for science, not for exploration, but for intimidation. The United States wanted the entire world to see it. A message to the Soviet Union. A message to humanity. We are powerful enough to reach the moon and destroy it. And the terrifying part is, this wasn't just a random idea from a few generals. Real scientists worked on the project. Engineers, physicists, astronomers. Even a young Carl Sagan participated in the calculations. Yes, that Carl Sagan. Before becoming one of the world's most famous scientists, he helped analyze what a nuclear explosion on the moon would look like. His task was to calculate how lunar dust would behave after detonation, how visible the explosion would be from Earth, how large the glowing cloud would become. Scientists were literally trying to design the perfect nuclear spectacle in space. And that sounds horrifying, because this wasn't about protecting humanity. It was political theater, using the moon as a stage. At first, military officials considered using a hydrogen bomb, but there was a problem. It was too heavy. Rocket technology in the 1950s was still primitive, so instead, they chose a smaller warhead, the W-25 nuclear device. Its yield was around 1.7 kilotons, smaller than the Hiroshima bomb, but still powerful enough to create a visible flash on the moon, especially in space, because a nuclear explosion in a vacuum behaves differently than one on Earth. No atmosphere, no traditional shockwave, no mushroom cloud like we normally imagine. Just blinding light, radiation, and lunar dust thrown violently into space. Humanity had never seen anything like it before. Now imagine the world back then. The Cold War is already pushing humanity to the edge. People build nuclear bunkers in their backyards. Children practice atomic attack drills in schools. Television broadcasts survival instructions for nuclear war. Fear becomes part of daily life. And during all of this, one of the world's superpowers decides, what if we explode a nuclear bomb on the moon? But the risks were enormous. Rocket launches in the 1950s failed constantly. Explosions during launch were common. One mistake could turn the mission into a catastrophe. Imagine it. The rocket launches. Something malfunctions. The guidance system fails. And suddenly, a nuclear warhead is falling back toward Earth. That possibility terrified even American officials. Because a failed launch wouldn't just be embarrassing. It could trigger an international disaster. Or even nuclear war. Some scientists strongly opposed the project. Not only because of the danger, but because nobody truly understood what would happen. Humanity still knew almost nothing about the moon. Would the explosion contaminate the surface? Could radioactive debris spread into space? Could it permanently damage future exploration? Nobody knew. And that uncertainty made the entire plan even more dangerous. But perhaps the strangest part of all, America wasn't alone. The Soviet Union had its own version of the idea, a secret program known as Project E4. The USSR also considered detonating a nuclear device on the moon. Both superpowers were thinking the same thing. Space wasn't about discovery anymore. It was about dominance, fear, power. The moon had become another battlefield in the Cold War. Think about how insane that sounds. Two nuclear superpowers, simultaneously considering blowing up part of the moon, as if Earth itself wasn't dangerous enough already. Eventually, even the US government began to realize how reckless the project was. The risks were too high. The political consequences could be catastrophic. And slowly, American leadership started changing direction. They realized something important. A nuclear explosion would inspire fear, but putting a human on the moon would inspire the world. So in 1959, Project A119 was officially canceled. The files were classified. The public never learned the truth. Years passed, then decades. Humanity watched Apollo 11 land on the moon. Neil Armstrong took his first steps across the lunar surface, and history remembered the moon as a symbol of progress, not destruction, but hidden deep inside government archives. The documents remained, proof that history could have gone very differently. It wasn't until the year 2000 that the truth finally surfaced. Leonard Reifel, the former leader of the project, publicly confirmed it. Project A119 was real. The United States truly planned to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon. Some documents had already been destroyed, and many details may never be revealed. Which raises an unsettling question. How many other secret projects are still hidden? How many dangerous experiments were planned during the Cold War? How many decisions nearly changed human history forever? For thousands of years, humans looked at the moon as a symbol of mystery, of hope, of dreams. But in 1958, someone looked at it and saw a target. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't monsters, not ghosts, not horror movies, but real plans, signed by real people. Project A119 was one of them. And who knows what other secrets are still buried inside the archives of the Cold War. If you enjoy dark stories about secret experiments, hidden government projects, and the terrifying side of space, subscribe to the channel. Because this is only one story humanity almost forgot, and the next one might be even worse.